He is the executive director over at the Morad Center. You can reach him on Twitter at Andrew Brandt and IG Andrew Brandt T2. The host of the Business Sports Podcast. And Andrew, I just want to just get right to it because I always love your expertise. But when you think about a couple years ago when the Chiefs presented Patrick Mahomes with this humongous contract, $500 million. Oh, my God. But now, after seeing what he's done in his first 5 years as a starting quarterback, is Patrick Mahomes now underpaid, Andrew?
Hey, Kirk, good to be with you. Always good to be on the show with you, with Rich, with Susie. Enjoy my time with you guys. I think that what I tried to do is sort of break down the reality versus the PR, for lack of a better word,
right,
on some of these NFL contracts. And I think we were just faced with that this week even, where there was a big deal done 6 months ago for a guy named Derek Carr.
Right.
That contract has now turned to dust. and it was a 4-year deal, and it's gone. And it just shows everyone that these contracts are more quote-unquote suggestions in the NFL compared to the NBA and Major League Baseball. What Patrick did, I don't know exactly why, but he committed his whole career in one contract to the Chiefs. And before we even get to the numbers,
right,
let's just put aside the numbers for everyone listening. Right now we're not talking about $30 million, $40 million, $50 million. The fact that the Chiefs got him under contract at any number, I repeat, any number for 12 years is a win. That's a huge win. That's a huge win. Patrick Mahomes will never, ever see the light of day in free agency unless he's, 37 years old. So that's a monster win for the Chiefs before we even talk about the numbers. Then you get to the numbers, and, like I said, the PR's out there, $450 million, $500 million, whatever it is. But then you get inside the deal, and I look at markers like the first 3 years. So first 3-year cash, forget about cap. What's the first 3-year hard money coming to the player?
Mm-hmm.
And the Mahomes extension, I couldn't believe this number. Not that it's not that anyone would thumb their nose at $65 million over 3 years. But think about that, $65 million in his extension over 3 years. You know what Ryan Tannehill got in his extension over 3 years? $90 million. You know what Derek Carr got? $100 million. You know what Kyler Murray got? $105 million. You know what Russell Wilson got? $115 million. You know what Jared Goff and Carson Wentz got when they did their extensions? $85 million. That's just a ridiculously low number. His signing bonus was $10 million. Matthew Stafford last year got $60 million. So I just don't get it. And everyone says, well, it's going to bump up. It's going to bump up. Maybe. I mean, the number next year is like 36. Then it goes to 37. You don't get to like 47 million till 2027. So again, when you hear the big numbers about a deal like that, you got to look closer.
Yeah, but look closer indeed. He is definitely underpaid. But I think, Andrew, I guess the next part will be looking at the quarterback that Patrick Mahomes faced in Super Bowl 57, which is Jalen Hurts. He is now eligible for a contract after his 3 years of service in the National Football League. He will go into a contract year. Maybe it gets there, maybe it won't. Maybe they sort of use a different mechanism after the season if they don't get a deal done. But what should the parameters for you as a former executive in the NFL, what should the parameters start to look like for a Jalen Hurts type contract?
Well, you got to put Hurts in the same category now with Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. They're all 4-year players coming in their 4th year. As people should know, you can't even do a deal with a contract with a rookie contract guy until they've hit 3 years in the league.
Right.
So now they're eligible. This discussion always, to me, comes back to the elephant in the room about quarterback contracts, which is Deshaun Watson. We've talked about it many times. The question becomes for these 3 guys and Lamar Jackson, again, not how much, but how secure. How secure? Watson's the most secure contract in NFL history. It's 5 years fully secured. Nothing can take away that money from him. And I know people are saying, well, they're never going to cut Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts. I get it. But you have to look at contract negotiations as allocation of risk.
Right.
When you're guaranteed, the team takes all the risk. When you're not guaranteed, you take all the risk. So I'm looking at the Hurts and Burrow, et cetera, contracts. Sure, they'll get into 40 or 50 a year or whatever it may be, but are those real years, like we just talked about Derek Carr, or are those phony years? And the way the teams have operated, as I know from doing this in Green Bay for 10 years, is like, yeah, we'll guarantee year one, maybe year two. We have no risk in doing that. You're a young player.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want to guarantee beyond that. And we'll see what the rubber meets the road about the Watson contract.
He's Andrew Brandt, the host of the Business of Sports podcast, former NFL executive joining the Rich Eisen Show. Kirk Morrison here, filling in for Rich. Andrew, you've mentioned his name a couple times so far, the Derek Carr. Now you said the contract that has kind of disappeared in thin air. He's got the early head start in free agency. If you're Derek Carr, obviously you have the time to look at what's out there for you. But what should be the big thing for Derek Carr moving forward? I feel like it shouldn't be a money situation. It's about the right fit, the right team. But if you look at the contract, what type of contract can be afforded to him before the start of free agency?
Well, he took a risk. If truly the Saints or maybe another team wanted to trade for him, and he said, no, I want to be released and hit free agency to pick my team, he took a financial risk because if someone traded for him, they'd pick up $41 million of guaranteed money, $36 million this year, $5 million the next year, whatever it was. So he's banking, him and his agent are banking on the fact that we get out there in free agency a month before the free agency and we get more than 42 guaranteed. We'll see. And if he doesn't get that, what we'll hear is that I just wanted to be at X team. And the money was not the primary factor. So, you know, Kirk, it's going to be the most interesting quarterback market in my covering the league or being in the league ever, because we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
There's Derek. There's Garoppolo. There's Daniel Jones. There's Geno Smith. There's 5 rookies potentially in the first round. It's going to be musical chairs, so you got to get in while the getting's good, because some of these seats are going to get filled pretty fast.
I know a lot of teams don't want to be in a situation because at some point you just say, you know what, we have to do it. We don't want to do it, but we know it has to happen at some point. And I feel like this is finally the year, Andrew. You've been around the organization before, the Green Bay Packers. I feel like this is finally the year that Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers finally agreed to say, you know what, we've done this dance, this two-step for far too long. Let's just move and go in separate directions. Ultimately, how do you think this thing ends up with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers for this season?
Let me be clear. I don't have inside knowledge.
Correct.
Obviously, I have great resources at the organization, and I know Aaron, but I have not talked to either side about this. But I agree with you. I think it's time.
Yeah.
I think but the question that unanswered is, which I'd really like the Packers to answer, which they won't, is, okay, if Aaron emerges from his retreat and says, well, I think people expect him now to say, yeah, I want to be traded or retire. What if he comes out and says, you know what, I want to be back. I want to be Packer another year or two, whatever. Because I don't get the sense they want that.
Right.
Now, that would be an interesting case. If he comes out and says, I've decided, I've thought on it, I want to be back with my team I've been with the last 17 years. I don't know if they want that. You know? And this is so much deja vu. So, I mean, I shake my head. Think about it. We drafted Aaron. We put him in the bullpen for 3 long years.
Yeah.
3 years. They drafted Jordan. They put him in the bullpen for 3 long years.
Right.
We decided we love Brett, but it's time for a change. And I think they're deciding they love Aaron, but it's time for a change. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But can you imagine, I know no one cares about Jordan Love, Can you imagine going to Jordan Love and saying, hey, by the way, we're not going to play you till your 5th year?
Okay.
I mean, that's really hard. And they'd say, trade me, but they don't want to trade him.
Right.
So this is really interesting.
Very interesting. I think what's even more interesting, and I think this is more because we were just out there in Phoenix, in Arizona last week for Super Bowl week, that I'm very interested, Andrew, in what the Arizona Cardinals decide to do at quarterback, because there is no guarantee on the timeline for when Kyler Murray will be available to you. So how do you bring in that bridge starter? I feel like it's sounding real Jacoby Brissett-ish, if that makes sense, where you bring in a guy and say, oh, he can start, but we know he's just keeping the seat warm for the next guy. But you've got a new head coach now in Jonathan Gannon. So I'm trying to figure out, with the money you just gave Kyler Murray, now you got to go out and find someone just to keep the seat warm for him. And who knows if that guy's playing better or not. I know it's Kyler's possible job, but, man, I feel like there's a lot there in Arizona that no one's really talking about.
Seems to be a bit erratic.
Right.
With him and the contract and the homework clause. I mean, he's a talent, and I think Jonathan Gannon said that. He is an elite talent. He has been since high school. I think the whole world knows that. Can Gannon bring out something? It's not going to be him because he's defensive coach.
Right.
But can their offensive coordinator bring out the best and unlock Kyler Murray, who, again, is going to make wild plays every game? As far as a bridge guy, these are what teams have to decide when you have a Kyler Murray. Do you want to bring in a Jacoby Brissett type, or do you want to develop somebody under Kyler?
Right.
And you're dealing with some ego there, too.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think they probably bring in one of these stopgap guys. And that, by the way, that's usually who's on the market this time of year. It's the Jacoby Brissetts, the Tyrod Taylors. But as I just said, there are a lot of interesting names beyond that.
He's Andrew Brandt, the host of Business of Sports podcast. Just a couple more minutes here on the Rich Eisen Show. The one thing I do know, Andrew, and you can help me out here, is that the NFL salary cap is going up by close to $17-18 million. With all this new money now flowing into the salary cap, who does it benefit? Is it benefiting the quarterback? Is it benefiting the middle line veteran? Is it better for the rookies? I see salary cap go up. I'm thinking it's great for everyone, but what position in particular gets the benefit of the increase in salary?
Well, I think people have to be cautious. When you hear about the salary cap going up $17-18 million, that's already taken, right? I mean, there's no new money for teams. You have 53 or 60 players on your team, so that's an average increase of what, like $300,000 per player,
right?
And that's not a lot. So you got some players at the top going up $3 million a year. So $17 million is not a big increase when you're talking about 60 players, because their contracts always go up. No one stays the same. So that, I think what you have to do is figure out where you're going to spend. That's the goal of cap management. Most teams prioritize quarterback and left tackle and edge rusher and corner, and then figure out the rest. But it's what everyone's doing right now. They're trying to prioritize their spending, and they're seeing where it's going to go. The wide receiver market was the big winner last year.
Right.
And we'll see what happens this year. There's interesting running backs out there with Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley and Tony Pollard. It's going to be interesting to see where that market goes. I'm curious about that.
So you're saying the NFL's running back market may see a bump. I'm excited to hear that, right?
Well, these are special players. Usually,
right.
No, but, you saw Aaron Jones was going to make $16 million. He took $11 because he kind of probably looked at that's the top of the market now. So that's probably where we expect those other guys to go.
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers made a deal with Aaron, just not the other Aaron, right? They made a deal with Aaron Jones and not Rodgers, and we'll see what that looks like now moving forward. But Andrew, always appreciate the time, my man. I'll let you go back to relaxing and getting ready as we get ready to start the new fiscal year of the NFL in the coming weeks. Thanks as always, Andrew.
Thanks, Kirk. Some people are tweeting about the newsletter. So you go to andrew-brandt.com and you can get my newsletter every week. I talk about this stuff.
There we go. Appreciate it, Andrew. Talk to you soon, my man.
Thank you.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.